Curtains went up on the 10th Global Korean Politicians Forum this month, bringing together 100 ethnic Korean politicians and government officials from 14 nations here in capital Seoul for talks on a broad spectrum of global matters. On Issues and Insiders today, we speak with one participant at this year's gathering. Hello and welcome to Issues and Insiders for this Friday, August 30th here in South Korea. I'm Min Sunhee. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Representative Daniel Pae of the U.S. state of Oklahoma, who is here in Seoul as a participant of a forum that seeks to promote a network for talks among ethnic Korean politicians worldwide. I have Daniel Pae here in the studio. Mr. Pae, Daniel, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Happy to be here, Sunny. Thank you for the opportunity.
Right. Let's begin then with an introduction by you with regard to your personal as well as professional backgrounds then.
Absolutely. And this is my fourth time in South Korea. Great to be back. It's a little hot, but that's okay. In Oklahoma right now, it's in almost 110 degrees Fahrenheit, so I'm used to the heat. But I was born and raised in Oklahoma, in the city of Lawton, Fort Sill. We are a military community, and my mom and dad immigrated from South Korea in 1983. They wanted to pursue the American dream, and they decided to open up a dry cleaning business in 1989. And so growing up as a kid, I helped them there, met a lot of soldiers and veterans in the community along the way, went through Lawton Public Schools, and then attended university at OU, the University of Oklahoma. And politics was not my plan, so to speak. I had ambition to become a doctor, and so I was pre-med my first semester, and then the more I contemplated and prayed about that path, it was not the right calling for me. And so I wanted to switch directions, and it was through student government that I found my true calling of public service, studied economics and political science, and then graduated a master's degree in public administration, all within 4 years, and it was an incredible time at the university.
That is really remarkable, Daniel.
Thank you.
And staying with that, what actually then prompted you perhaps to actually take your path into public service?
I think everyone's journey into public service is different, and oftentimes there are events and mentors that help you along the way. So for me, it was my experience with student government. I had the honor of being the student body president at the University of Oklahoma. Also had internship opportunities both in state government and at the federal level for my Congressman Tom Cole. So with all that experience and knowledge, I knew I wanted to go into government. And at the time, there was a great TV show on NBC called Parks and Recreation that focused on local politics. And I kind of wanted to be the Leslie Knope of Lawton. And we have the brain drain in Oklahoma where a lot of young people move to Dallas and Denver, big metropolitan areas. But I felt called to move back home to Lawton to give back and see what I could do to improve the community and have young people stay in Lawton and in Oklahoma. I didn't actually have a job lined up 2 weeks before graduation in May of 2017, but I had chatted our city manager in Lawton the previous holiday, and so I asked, are there any open positions? And he said, not really, but there's a part-time position as an admin assistant in the city manager's office, and that's ultimately where I got started in government. And then that summer, I was catching up with my friend, he's still my friend to this day, John Michael Montgomery. He was state representative at the time. That's who I interned for at the Oklahoma State Capitol. He'd just gotten married. We were in the back of my Tacoma, just catching up, and he told me about his plans of announcing his candidacy for state senate in just a couple weeks at the time. And he told me I should consider running myself as a candidate for his House seat. So I talked to my mom and dad about it, prayed about it, and ultimately felt we need younger people in politics. We certainly need more Korean Americans in politics. And my mom and dad have always taught me you can either be the part of the problem or be part of the solution. And I wanted to be part of the solution, especially with politics at the time. Certainly now, it's very polarized, and I wanted to offer a very positive, uplifting, aspirational message to the voters. So knocked on thousands of doors from September of 2017 until the election in November of the following year. And that is very remarkable. I just graduated from the university in May 2017 and announced in September just a few months later. That was not the plan. It just happened that the door opened and I wanted to go through that door. And ultimately 8,000 people voted in that election, and I won by 42 votes altogether. So very much a nail biter. And it shows that if you work hard, if you knock on doors, if you run a grassroots campaign, you can be very successful. And here I am 6 years later now.
Right, a positive inspiration for many young people, of course.
Absolutely.
Daniel, so you were elected into the Oklahoma House of Representatives at the age of 23 then, back in 2018, and you continue to serve in that capacity as we speak now. What has that experience been like?
So going into the position, number one, it was an honor to represent my fellow Latonians. That's the place where I grew up. It's where I met many of my former teachers along the way during the campaign. It was very inspiring for me personally to hear so many different stories about how people have given back to the community. And to serve in this capacity to help those people, it's a true honor. And so because I was so young at the time, and still am young right now, I had a few folks who thought I was an intern. And I remember specifically, I was looking forward to going to the House chamber. As a member, I had my pin on, nice suit, and I got to the entrance, and then we have sergeant-at-arms who take care of us. And so one of them stopped me and said, "Sir, interns aren't allowed to go into the chamber." And I said, "I just got elected a few weeks ago." And so things like that kept me humble the first couple years. And since then, I've really dug into policy work and issues like criminal justice reform, human trafficking, food insecurity. I think these are all important issues to tackle in Oklahoma. And I am blessed to represent a constituency where it's neither super conservative nor super liberal. It is down in the middle. And most voters who I've spoken with are also that way. They don't want to see someone who's extreme on either side of the aisle. They want to see someone who gets things done, who can be pragmatic. And I've operated from the philosophy of governing should be like riding a bike. When you ride a bike, you can't lean too far to the left or too far to the right. You have to be balanced. And that's what most people want in politics nowadays. And that's how I've governed the past 6 years. I'm also proud of the fact that I've mentored a number of high school students and college students because I know exactly what it's like to be in their shoes, someone who's young and wants to go into public service. So I've offered advice and candor along the way to those types of folks. And I'm not going to be in politics forever, so I'll have to retire at some point. So I want to make sure that the next generation of leadership is ready to go.
Right, and perhaps expanding on what you touched upon earlier, with regard to the political scene here in Korea as well, quite a number of people have spoken about the need for new, young faces to breathe fresh life into ongoing social concerns, challenges, and more, of course. Now, according to one publication that I read prior to meeting you today, you've been described as a creative legislator, and I'm quoting. What do you believe is behind this description?
Yeah, I'm curious who said that, but you know, I've also been called a maverick. I'm a big fan of Top Gun, so I don't mind that comparison either. No, I think we're on this earth for a finite amount of time, and when these elected positions for a finite amount of time. In Oklahoma, it can only serve 12 years at most. So while you're in office, I don't think you should waste time and dilly-dally. You need to make sure that you get to work and then focus on the constituents who got you elected in the first place. So I've always followed my curiosity when it comes to policy. And I don't care if someone's a Republican or a Democrat. A good idea is a good idea. So for example, my first bill that got signed into law was increasing the speed limit in Oklahoma turnpikes to 80 miles per hour. That's been very popular since that was enacted. But I've also worked on issues like psilocybin. So that's the key ingredient in magic mushrooms, looking at psychedelic therapy to help treat PTSD. Now, to be honest, I was very skeptical when someone approached me about that idea. But when I saw that Texas had passed similar legislation and representing a constituency with so many veterans who are struggling with mental health, it made sense. Let's give it a try. Let's study the issue and see what happens. And we have fantastic universities in Oklahoma who can do just that. So I convinced a number of colleagues. I've talked one-on-one in their offices, in the parking lot, what have you, wherever I could find them, to convince them to vote for the bill. And ultimately passed the House of Representatives. And that was a big surprise to many folks. But I like to work hard. I outwork the competition and just put forth my best effort. And so again, I just follow my curiosity when it comes to policy. I do try to be creative because that's what I think people need from their elected officials, is try to think outside the box and figure out what the best solutions are moving forward.
Right, and perhaps based on those efforts and your dedication back in 2022 during the Oklahoma House of Representatives elections, I understand your seat was uncontested. How would you explain perhaps the general public faith in your service?
And I'll start from 2018 to then, because I was fresh out of college. I did look very young, and I know that one reason why the election was so close in that cycle was people didn't know me as well, and I hadn't proven myself because I was fresh out of college and had an opponent who had ran before for office a couple of times. And so all that was the factor in 2018. And during those 4 years between 2018 to 2022, I proved myself that I was someone who's responsible and mature and very thoughtful when it comes to governing. And I take pride in the fact that I'm very approachable, whether it's at Walmart or at the gym. I've had folks come up to me and ask questions about whatever topic they want to bring up. And I've always tried to be respectful of them and answer those questions to the best of my ability. So we have a gold standard of constituent services, no doubt about it, in our office. And I've got a fantastic legislative assistant, Leah Ralston. She's been with me since the beginning. No doubt that she also has helped tremendously when it comes to serving my constituents. So I think the fact that I proved myself, that we have fantastic constituent services, and that I'm usually out and about in the community at different functions, I think all those are factors in why I was unopposed in that cycle. And I'm not afraid of competition. I'll have a general election here in a few months, and I've been knocking doors. I was out in the heat just before I got to South Korea this past weekend, and I'll be doing that again next week up until November 5th. And I've got a great story to tell, and I'm looking forward to telling that story to the voters come November.
All right, and speaking about your trip here to Korea, Daniel, you were here as a member, as a participant, that is, of the 10th Global Korean Politicians Forum. For the sake of our viewers unfamiliar with this particular forum, could you tell us a bit about it?
Absolutely, and this is the 10th Annual Global Korean Politicians Forum. It's my second time attending as a participant. And so the Korean government has established the Overseas Korean Cooperation Center. And the mission is to try to bring elected Koreans from all over the world. There's about 100 who are attending this week. And so, of course, the United States is represented, but even countries like Kazakhstan, Russia, and you name it, they're all here in South Korea at this gathering. And so it's a great way to meet other elected Koreans and get to know best practices, ideas for legislation, and most importantly, develop friendships. The mantra for the forum is that our network is our net worth. And I think all these friendships that we've accumulated during this time, and then for those of us who were here last year and in the past as well, is very meaningful. And like for me, Dallas is only 3 hours away, and it has more Korean Americans than Oklahoma does entirely. And so that was really cool last year to meet so many great elected officials from the Dallas Metro, many of whom have come back. And so I look forward to continuing to get involved with this type of organization in the years to come and seeing where it goes from here.
Right, and based on the discussions perhaps at this year's gathering, what issues resonated with you the most?
We had a fantastic panel on elected officials from different levels of government and how they got there, and talking about the challenges as a Korean American, what that's like to do well, not just in a campaign, but also in government. So I really enjoyed that discussion, and then we had breakout sessions where my session was focused on the Korean War and looking at the history about why it's important to learn about that and figure out how do we move forward when it comes to all the challenges going on in this region of the world. I'm a big history guy myself, so that was very enlightening. But overall, it's been a week of great learning, of networking, and just building camaraderie with each other, so that when the forum concludes here very shortly, we can take those friendships and relationships with us back home.
Right, hopefully, of course.
Yes.
Earlier, Daniel, you spoke about how your mother told you you could be part of the problem or you could be part of the solution. That being said, how has your upbringing as a child of Korean immigrants in the US perhaps shaped you as a person?
Absolutely. And I think my mom and dad are an excellent example of the American dream and how it's possible to be successful in America if you work hard and you put forth your best effort and you just care about other people. So growing up in that type of household, I learned the values of empathy, humility, and compassion. And those are all the things I bring to the table now as a state representative. And my parents definitely keep me humble. And I know my mom specifically likes to remind me of a story about how when I was in pre-K, we had an end of the year assembly. And during the assembly itself, I was so scared to go on stage. And so there was a delay in the program because of me. And ultimately, I just ran off the stage to my mom because I was so afraid all these people were looking at me, And then I spoke at my college convocation in front of tens of thousands of people. And now, certainly in this current opportunity, I had to speak to many different people in many different venues. So she always likes to remind me that I've come a long way since my pre-K days. And so I appreciate her wisdom as well as my dad's wisdom. And they've both been excellent parents to me over the years.
Right. You claim your parents are the example of the American dream, and yet most say that you are the living example of the American dream. What do you say?
So, I mean, it's been very humbling the past 6 years to go on this journey. And I hope that I can inspire other Korean Americans who want to go into public service. And that doesn't necessarily have to mean being an elected official. There are also various ways to give back. But I hope that I can be an example of a successful politician who can give back and try to help other people. I know there are a lot of challenges globally and domestically, and reason to perhaps be cynical about politics and what's happening right now. But I think there's a lot of reason to be hopeful as well. And I'm someone who I haven't changed through this position. I take it as an opportunity to serve, and I want to make sure that I make the most of it during the time I have, however long that may be. And I will say I did have an opportunity to jump over to the state senate recently, but I declined that opportunity. A lot of people were surprised because they thought it was a natural next step, rising up the ladder of leadership. But I like where I'm at, serving as a state representative, and I feel that I can give back tremendously in this role. And the district in the Senate is a lot bigger, and I want to take care of my mental health and my personal well-being. So taking care of the people of Lawton, that's priority number one for me.
Right. And for those who are perhaps seeking to walk the same path that you're walking, these young people out there, what message would you like to share with them?
It's absolutely possible, and we need younger people at the decision-making table. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I think for millennials, for Gen Z, it's important that we have those voices represented in government. And in Oklahoma, we do have a number of young lawmakers in the House and the Senate on both sides of the aisle. And in fact, our next speaker, when he takes office in January, Representative Kyle Hilbert, he's only a year older than me. He just turned 30, and he'll be the youngest speaker in our state's history, which I think is fantastic and historic. And so for any young person out there who wants to get involved in politics, there's absolutely a path. Now, is it easy? No, you got to be out in the heat, in the cold, knocking doors and shaking hands and all that good stuff. But as long as you care about other people, you have a positive attitude, and you don't give up, it can all work out in the end.
Right. The U.S. is looking ahead at the presidential election in November. What message perhaps would you like to share with the voters out there in the U.S.?
Well, number one, make sure to vote when it comes time on November 5th. And again, I completely understand with everything going on, reasons to be cynical, but I think there's a lot more reason to be hopeful. Elections are absolutely important and consequential, so we need to make sure there's good turnout. I'll be on the ballot myself, and I hope that this campaign cycle will not be as negative or as all the mudslinging that happens usually in campaigns. I hope that doesn't really set the tone. I want to make sure that we focus on the issues, on what people care about. And that's how I'm going to campaign myself, is focusing on the issues for Lawton and for Oklahoma. How do we move the state forward? And then also talk about my record of the past 6 years and what I want to accomplish if I have the honor of serving for 2 more years as well.
Right. And staying with your personal plan then, Daniel, where do you see yourself perhaps a decade from now, 10 years from now?
So I'll be 39 at that point. And now I should also know that Oklahoma has a term limit of 12 years. So I've done 6 years already. I could potentially do 6 more, but then I would have to move on to something else. what that something else looks like, I'm completely open. I'm praying about that almost every day. And over a decade ago, I was still just graduating high school and starting college. So 10 years from now, who knows? Personally, I hope to have a family at that point, get married and kids and all that good stuff. I'm not at that stage in life right now because I'm very busy, as you can tell, with the job at hand. So hopefully whatever opportunity comes up, I still want to be of service. I still want to give back to people, but just in a way that has a better work-life balance. So I'm excited, and I've always said that it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. So I look forward to the journey for the next 10 years and beyond.
Right, and good luck with that
Thank
journey.
you.
Daniel, thank you so much for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sunny. Appreciate the opportunity.
Right, well, that is all the time we have for this edition of Issues and Insiders. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend.